Hello and welcome back to the garage. As I said in the previous episode, we're going to continue work on the front suspension. And as I also showed you in the previous episode, the front cross member is already on there. And I have the front passenger brake disc, wheel bearing assembly, and this is quite heavy. Everything back here already assembled. This took me quite some time. I did it wrong many times. I had to take it apart like 20 to 30 times in total, because of there are also shims in here to make the measurement exactly correct, and it's natural that you have to take this apart and put it back together a few times, but I also did things in the wrong order, and then finally I had everything together, and then I noticed, well, wait, I still have to fit this on and the brake disc, so it had to come off again, and so on and so on and so on. So I'm happy that this is finished, and now it's time to make everything under here ready for the brake disc and the kingpin to go on as well. So that's the goal for today, to get as far as possible on the front suspension. That is one of the last major parts for this car to get back on the road. After that, it's just a case of topping up the cooling water, topping up or changing the oil, and then also changing the brake fluid or putting in new brake fluid, because everything just dripped out of there when I disconnected everything. So yeah, let's get cracking. So before doing anything else, it's important to grease this part on the inside, and that's what these grease nipples are for. I've got a grease gun here, so that's what we're going to start with. I've also got a new bolt kit, and there should be a washer in here, or like a bushing which goes inside here. So let's quickly look for that. I thought it was in here, apparently not. But anyway, these are new bolts to go like on the entire front suspension assembly, new everything, and this is also going to make the front suspension look way better, which I just really like. But let me catch this front washer first. I keep saying washer, but I think it's actually more like a bushing. So I'm going to give it a light coat of grease so that it slides in easily. And then this should fit right in here. And it does. Okay. Next step is to connect the grease gun here, and then put in as much grease as we can, basically. So there's no real way to tell when enough is enough, but I think if it's pouring out the top here, I think we can call that adequate. I remember when I took off this part that there was a lot of grease on the outside here, and it was making this part extremely dirty, so I'm going to try and make it more of a habit to a few times a year get under the car and clean this with a paper towel, because otherwise it will just get very messy and the grease will catch dirt and dust and everything. So keeping it clean will make the car look a lot better when I take it apart in the future or someone else does. I think it's this one. Nope. And there we go. Now we just need to do this one and then another one under here, and then we are ready with greasing the kingpin. Let's also take a look add a few of the polyurethane bushings that we'll need today before we get going with putting everything back together. That does look nice, doesn't it? I mean, the black with these purple kind of bushings, purple bluish. Very, very nice. Here you can see the two lower wishbones, the spring pan, so the spring just comes on top of this. And then here we have, I don't really know what this is called, the link. I think it's called the link. This goes in here, and then this is what the anti-roll bar connects to. We're going to assemble the right side here on the workbench, and then we'll have to move to underneath the car where we can do everything else and actually fit it to the cross member. You know, the funny thing actually is that so far, putting all of these things together is almost going easier than taking it out, like taking it off from the car and disassembling it, because all the bolts now are completely new, and everything just connects up so nicely. While when I was taking it off the car, everything was rusty, didn't want to come off. It was such a pain. And they always say putting everything back together is more difficult than taking it apart for each other. And in a certain sense that is true. Like this, for example, I put the bolt in on the wrong side, or at least what I think is the wrong side. It's whatever you prefer, I guess. But other than that, everything connects up so nicely. And I remember when taking this car apart, the rusty bolts was, well, it was quite a pain in the ass. Let me tell you. That was very, very annoying. I don't think that will come loose any longer, or ever for that matter. Now there's just this alone, like when I took this apart, the link was squeaking. You could move it around very easily. Now it feels firm, it feels solid. I think loads of little things like this will make a massive difference in the overall driving experience of the car. So yeah, let's get the bushings and put it on the car. Let's start with greasing up the bushings a little bit as well. Okay, so this needs to go over the original part as well. So I'm going to put some copper grease in between there to make sure that this doesn't rust to this part. Yeah, let's do that. So apparently the camera was on standby, and when I pressed the record button, it didn't start recording. Now you can see it is on here. It looks very, very good. I'm very happy. This is the nut and the bolt. Then in here, the nut, the washer, and then in here, in between here, are the bushings, the polyurethane bushings. And yeah, it's moving nicely. It feels smooth. There is no play whatsoever, which is very, very good. So now we need to do the other side as well, but we immediately need to put the kingpin in between here as well. So this is going to be, or maybe we don't. Maybe if there's enough room, we can kind of push it in. Yeah, we'll have to look at that in a minute. And the fiddly work has begun. This like iron washer needs to go inside a rubber seal. And the rubber seal also needs to go around the bottom end of the kingpin. And it's just a very fiddly thing. And it's these kind of things that take up a lot of time. So I'm going to put myself behind this, try to get it done, and I'll come back to you when this fiddly part is over. As you can see, both the lower wishbone arms and spring pan are on there. The only thing I need to do is connect the rear wishbone arm to the spring pan. You can see there's still a little bit of a gap in between there. But the next step is going to be to connect this to the kingpin assembly here. And that means that the brake disc and wheel bearing assembly will come up for the first time. And we'll get a first look at what the new suspension will look like underneath the car. But right now, all these new and fresh bolts and freshly painted parts are looking very, very nice already. So I can't wait to see a new brake disc and everything under there as well. In all honesty, this went a lot smoother than I expected. And I was working, it was going quite well, and I thought, well, I'm just going to finish everything. But my God, this looks fantastic. Like, most of these parts are actually just refurbished or repainted. Only few things are new. Like, none of the important parts are new, just like the brake disc is new, because I think the old one was distorted a bit. But other than that, like the brake caliper, most of the suspension parts are just painted. The only thing that's new is probably like the brake pads, the brake disc, and most of the bolts. But wow, this looks fantastic. Look at that. And you can see the white spring in there as well. It looks fantastic. Now, isn't that one of the greatest feelings in the world when you do something like this and you've been thinking about it for months? Because the front suspension is the first thing that I took off. The front suspension on this side is the very first thing that I took off, and it's one of the last things that is now being put back together. I still have to do the driver's side, but like for 6 months I've been thinking about how I was going to do this, if it was going to go well, and to finally be able to do it and to see that everything went well is such a big relief. Like now I just have to do the exact same thing on the other side, and there's no big challenges waiting anymore. I did everything that I could do. I learned everything that I could learn. I think this is just one of the most beautiful moments of this entire build, to see everything as a whole come together. Because if you look at the side of this car, I'll flip the camera for a second. If you look at the side of this car, you can see, if the camera wants to focus, you can see the front suspension all refurbished over there, and then you can see, well, the camera can't see, but I can see the rear suspension looking new and fresh as well. And as a whole, it is a fantastic look on this car. Also with the refurbished sills on the underside of the car, it just looks fantastic. I can't wait to drive this thing. I am looking forward so much to the day that I can take this out again. But sadly that is not going to be today. But I think if I get the other side done today, we might be able to drive it in like maybe a week. I still need to get someone here to bleed the brakes and do a few small things, but like that's probably just 30 minutes of work. That won't take days. So you can tell I am getting excited. I'm getting really excited. I'm going to continue work on the other side. If I finish it today, I'll just quickly tune in and show it to you. But if not, then I'll see you in the next one. Okay, it's currently, wait, let me check. It's currently 10 minutes before 9 p.m. I'm still here, but the front is completely done. There are a few small things that I need to do still, but like, yeah, I think one more day of working on the car and we're back on the road. So look, you can see, well, you can't see the front suspension on the driver's side, but everything is on there. I still need to do the brakes, so right now it's just the discs, but yeah, that's basically like 15 minutes of work. That's something that I'm not going to do today because that would just make it even later than it is now. Well, I don't really care if they are on right now or tomorrow or the day after that, so that's going to be something that I do at a later point. Then it's still just a few small things and then we are back on the road. This is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tagging along, and I'll see you in the next one. It's going to get pretty exciting right now.